I remember the exact moment Emily told me she felt trapped. She stood in the middle of our small kitchen, twisting her fingers like she was scared of her own words. "I can't breathe here anymore," she said. "I feel trapped, Evan." I stared at her, confused, because I had just finished building the apartment she always talked about. I thought she would be happy. "What do you mean trapped?" I asked. "I'm trying my best for us." She shook her head. "That's not enough for me right now." I kept asking her to explain, but she just repeated the same line. "I need space." Her eyes looked far away, like she wasn't really talking to me. I tried to laugh it off. "Space? For how long?" She shrugged. "I don't know. I just know I can't stay here tonight." When she went to the bedroom and grabbed her gray backpack, I felt something break inside me. "Emily, don't leave like this," I said. "At least tell me what I did wrong." She zipped the bag and sighed. "It's not about wrong. It's about how I feel. I don't feel happy anymore." I stepped toward her, but she stepped back. That hurt more than anything she said. "So you're just walking out?" I asked. She didn't argue. She just walked past me and headed for the door. I followed her outside, hoping she would turn around, but she didn't. When she reached the street, she said, "I'm not doing this to hurt you. I just need to find myself." "Find yourself? Where?" I asked. She whispered, "Somewhere else," before walking away. I stood there, watching the woman I loved disappear into the night. A few minutes later, Josh called me. "Hey man, you okay?" he said. I swallowed hard. "She left." He paused. "What do you mean she left?" I told him everything. He cursed. "I'm coming over." When he walked into my living room, he looked around like he expected Emily to be hiding somewhere. "She really walked out?" he asked. I nodded. She said she felt trapped. Josh raised an eyebrow. "Trapped? You barely even go out without asking her to come with you." "I don't know," I said. "Maybe I overwhelmed her." Josh sat on the arm of the couch. "She should have talked to you, not just packed up and vanished." I wanted to believe him, but my chest felt tight. "Maybe she's right," I said. "Maybe I tried too hard." "Trying isn't bad," Josh replied. "You love her. That's not a crime." I rubbed my face. "Then why do I feel like I'm losing everything?" He shook his head. "Because she blindsided you." We talked for a while, but nothing he said made the house feel less empty. Josh stayed longer than he planned. At one point he said, "Do you want me to call her? Maybe she'll answer if it's me." I shook my head. "If she wants to talk, she will." He sighed and said, "I hate seeing you like this, man." I told him I hated it too, because everything felt unreal, like my life had been paused without warning. Every corner reminded me of her. The quiet felt heavy, like the whole place was waiting for her to come back. But deep down, I knew she wouldn't. Something in her eyes told me she was already gone long before she walked out that door. I tried calling her again before bed, but she didn't pick up. My message went to voicemail. "Emily, please just talk to me," I said. "Tell me what's really going on." I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the ceiling, thinking about her words. "I feel trapped." I repeated them until they stopped sounding real. I kept wondering if she just stopped loving me or if I pushed her away without knowing it. By sunrise, I still had no answers. All I had was the echo of her voice and the cold space beside me where she used to sleep. And even though I tried to tell myself she needed time, something inside me whispered the truth I didn't want to hear. She wasn't coming back. I walked into the apartment I built for us, and the air felt heavier than I remembered. "Emily should be here," I muttered, running my hand along the counter I installed. She said she loved this place. The echo of my voice bothered me. I stared at the walls and whispered, "Why did you leave like that?" Every detail reminded me of her favorite spot by the window, the shelf she asked me to build, the paint color she insisted on even when I said it was too bright. I stood in the center of the room and said, "We were supposed to start our life here." My voice cracked, and I sat on the floor because my legs felt weak. "You told me this place made you feel safe," I said. "So why does it feel like you ran from me?" I hated the way my own words sounded. They made me feel needy, broken, and foolish for believing everything she told me. "I don't get it," I said. "You were happy. At least you said you were." But even as I tried to defend her in my mind, I replayed the arguments we had. I remembered her cold answers, her late nights at work, her quick moves to hide her phone whenever I walked into the room. I sat there whispering, "You wouldn't lie to me, right?" But the silence didn't comfort me. It made me wonder if she had been slipping away long before she left. While I kept staring at the empty space, I heard a soft voice behind me. Evan, are you all right? I turned and saw Mrs. Turner standing in the doorway with her small cane. You look pale, she said. I forced a smile. I'm fine. She frowned. You don't sound fine. Where's Emily? I swallowed. She left. Mrs. Turner paused, gripping her cane tighter. Left, as in left for the night, or left you? I answered, left me. She nodded slowly, but didn't look surprised. Her reaction bothered me. Why do you look like you expected that? I asked. She sighed. I've seen her coming home late. I've heard her on the phone outside. My stomach tightened. On the phone with who? She hesitated. I'm not sure, but she sounded different. Not like a wife talking to her husband. I felt heat rise in my chest. Are you saying she was with someone else? I asked. She raised a hand. I'm not saying anything. I'm only telling you what I observed. I stepped back and looked around the apartment again. No, she wouldn't do that to me, I said. She promised me we were okay. Mrs. Turner whispered, people change, dear. Sometimes they change quietly. I leaned on the wall, trying to breathe. I built this place for her, I said. For us. Mrs. Turner touched my arm gently. Then you gave her something real. That's more than many men can say. I shook my head. It wasn't enough, she replied. Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe she didn't know what she wanted. I looked back at the empty living room and said, I thought she did. She talked about our future so much. My voice felt weak, but I kept talking because silence made the pain worse. She said she wanted to start a family here. She said she loved how hard I worked. I laughed softly. Maybe I heard what I wanted to hear. Mrs. Turner shook her head. No, she told you those things because she meant them in that moment. But moments change. I asked, do you think she'll come back? She hesitated again, and that hesitation cut deeper than any answer. I don't know, she said, but I think you should prepare yourself for whatever truth comes next. I nodded slowly and whispered, I'm scared of the truth. She replied, sometimes the truth is what finally frees. I kept telling myself that 2 weeks wasn't a long time, but every day felt heavier than the last. I kept calling Emily, leaving messages like, please just talk to me, but she never answered. I tried texting her too, asking, are you okay? Or can we meet? Still nothing. I even told Josh, maybe her phone's dead, and he shot back. For 14 days straight? Come on, man. I hated that he was right. One night he came over and said, you can't keep doing this to yourself. I shook my head. I'm not doing anything. I'm just waiting. He sighed. Waiting for what? A woman who walked out without a real reason. I snapped. She had a reason. She said she felt trapped. He pointed at me. That's not a reason. That's an excuse. I glared at him, but his words stuck in my chest. Most nights, I stayed up late staring at my phone. I kept checking the apartment calendar too, even though I had no idea why. Maybe I hoped she'd left a note somewhere. Maybe I was losing it. More than once I whispered, she'll come back. She'll remember what we had. But every morning I woke up without her felt like another nail hammered into the truth I didn't want to face. One evening, after a long day where everything went wrong at work, I decided to take a walk. My head felt too full and my chest felt too tight. I told myself, just breathe, just walk. My feet led me toward the apartment I built for us, even though I didn't plan to go there. I stood on the sidewalk across the street and stared at the dark windows. But then the lights flicked on. My heart jumped. Emily, I whispered, stepping closer. Maybe she'd come back without telling me. Maybe she finally wanted to talk. I walked toward the door, but as I got closer, I froze. I heard laughter, 2 voices. One of them was hers. The other belonged to a man. I pressed my hand against the window frame and leaned forward, and when I saw them, everything inside me broke. Emily was standing in the living room, her head tilted back as she laughed at something. And beside her was a man I recognized from the few times she mentioned work, Ryan Hale. The guy she said was just a coworker. The guy she said barely talked to her. The guy she swore had no place in our marriage. He put his hand on her back like he belonged there, and she didn't push him away. She stepped closer instead, smiling up at him. Then he pulled her into a hug, right there in the home I built with my own hands. The home she abandoned. I whispered, no, because my mind refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. My chest felt tight, like someone had grabbed my ribs and crushed them. The back of my throat burned. I felt stupid, blind, and completely shattered. She didn't leave because she felt trapped. She left because she chose someone else. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just watched them. She looked happier than she had in months, and that destroyed me far more than anything else. She never smiled at me like that near the end. She barely even looked at me. But here, she was glowing under the soft lights I installed for her. Ryan said something. I couldn't hear the words, but she touched his arm like she'd done it 1,000 times. I stepped back, shaking. How long? I whispered. How long has this been happening? I felt like a fool replaying every late night, every cold excuse, every time she hit her phone when I walked into the room. My hands were trembling. I didn't know if it was anger or heartbreak. Maybe both. I backed away from the window before they noticed me. I felt sick, like the ground under me wasn't real anymore. I staggered to the sidewalk, gripping a street lamp to steady myself. Josh called at that exact moment. I answered with a shaky voice. He said, "You okay?" I whispered, "She's with him." He went silent. "What do you mean?" My voice cracked. "She's in the apartment with Ryan." Josh cursed loud enough that I pulled the phone away. "Get out of there, Evan. Don't go inside. Don't confront them alone." I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. "I'm not going in. I don't have anything left to say." For a moment, I couldn't hear anything except my own heartbeat pounding in my skull. Everything felt slow, blurry, unreal. I pressed my hand against my chest and whispered, she was never coming back. And for the first time since she left, I finally believed it. I went to see Emily the next morning because I couldn't carry the weight of what I saw. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, then tried to hide it with a small smile. "Evan, you shouldn't be here," she said. I stepped inside anyway and asked, "Why are you living here with him?" She sighed like she was tired of me. "Please don't make this harder. I didn't want to hurt you." I laughed bitterly. "You didn't want to hurt me? Then why did you walk into the home I built with another man?" She looked away, and her silence stung more than the words. I asked, "Does he make you feel something I don't?" She whispered, "It's not like that." I said, "Then what is it like?" "Because I'm standing here trying to make sense of the ruins." She finally looked at me, eyes flat. "Ryan understands me." I felt something twist inside me. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated. "It doesn't matter." I stepped closer. "It matters to me. Tell me the truth." She whispered, "A few months." I closed my eyes because hearing it out loud felt like a punch. "Months," I repeated. "While I was building this place, you were already planning a life with him?" She said, "I wasn't planning anything. It just happened." I shook my head. "Nothing just happens. You made choices." She whispered, "You were always working." I felt alone. I swallowed hard. "I was working for us." She said, "I know you tried." But I felt trapped in a life that didn't feel like mine. I stared at her in disbelief. "Trapped? You used that word as an excuse to leave me for him." She said softly, "I didn't leave you for him." I pointed toward the living room. "Then why is he here? Why are you here with him?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Right then, Ryan stepped into the hallway. He folded his arms and said, "Maybe you should calm down." I glared at him. "Stay out of this." He smirked. "She doesn't want you here. Respect that." I felt heat rising in my chest. "You don't get to talk about what she wants. You barely know her." He stepped closer. "I know she's happier now." I wanted to hit him, but my hands refused to move. "Don't talk to me about my marriage," I said. He shrugged. "If you love her, let her go." Hearing another man say those words about my own wife made something inside me snap. I said, "You think you know her? You think you know what we built?" Ryan replied, "I know what she told me. I know she didn't feel seen." I turned to her. "Is that true? You didn't feel seen?" She whispered. I felt like I was fading. I whispered back, "You could have talked to me." She shook her head. "You were always so certain." I was scared you wouldn't hear me. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. "You never even tried." Ryan stepped between us slightly. "She doesn't owe you an explanation." I glared at him. "She owes me the truth." Emily grabbed his arm like she needed him for balance. That hurt more than anything. She said, "Evan, please just accept that I'm happier this way." I whispered, Are you? She didn't answer. I realized in that moment that the woman I loved wasn't standing in front of me anymore. She was someone else now. Someone who chose the easy rush of something new instead of the slow, steady love we had. I looked around the apartment one last time. I built this for us, I said quietly. Every part of it was for you. Emily whispered, I'm sorry. I shook my head. No, you're not. You're relieved. I finally know. Ryan said, you should leave. I didn't even look at him. I said to her, you didn't feel trapped by marriage. You felt trapped by stability. She frowned. That's not fair. I said, it's the truth. You didn't want a steady life. You wanted excitement. And he gave you that. She looked down. Maybe. I stepped back. Enjoy it while it lasts. She whispered my name, but I was already walking toward the door. I said, you made your choice. Now I'm making mine. Then I stepped outside, letting the door close behind me, knowing nothing would ever be the same again. I stood there in the hallway, breathing hard, feeling the weight of everything settle on my chest, and I understood that walking away was the only strength I had left now. I fell into something heavy after leaving that apartment, and the days blurred until I barely knew which morning I woke into. Josh kept knocking, saying, eat something. I'd mutter, I'm fine, though I wasn't. My stomach twisted every time I tried. One night he sat beside me, dropping a grocery bag on the floor. You look like a scarecrow, he said. I stared at the dark TV. What else am I supposed to look like? He sighed, like a man who still has a life. I said, it doesn't feel like mine anymore. He replied, it is. You just stopped holding it. He handed me a bottle of water. Start small. Water. Sleep. One step. I let out a dry laugh. That's all you've got. He nodded. You're drowning. I'm trying to hand you a rope. I whispered, I keep hearing them. Her voice. His voice. Laughing like they earned it. Josh said, stop replaying their mess. I swallowed. I loved her. He answered, and she wasted that. You didn't. I rubbed my eyes. So where do I go from here? He leaned back. Anywhere but backward. I said, what if forward hurts just as much? He replied, then you keep walking until it doesn't. His words echoed for days. I washed a plate, took a walk, drank water. Every small act felt like lifting a heavy beam off my chest. One morning, after staring at the bathroom mirror far too long, I said aloud, I'm done begging for someone who walked out. Later, Josh came again. You look steadier, he said. I shrugged. Barely. He said, barely is still something. I took a breath. I'm filing for divorce. He froze. That's big. I nodded. It's necessary. He exhaled. I'm proud of you. Seriously, filing wasn't explosive. Just signatures and a quiet sense of shifting ground. The clerk asked if I needed copies, and my voice cracked when I said yes. When I stepped outside afterward, sunlight felt strange but real. It didn't fix me, but it didn't burn either. There was room in me again, even if it hurt. I went to see Mrs. Turner next. She opened the door gently. You look pale, dear. I said, I filed today. She guided me to her kitchen. Sit. Tell me what you're feeling. I said, I feel hollow, but also lighter. Does that make sense? She nodded. Of course. Pain leaves gaps. Healing fills them. I stared at the table. I thought our marriage was real. She touched my arm. It was real to you. That matters. But real doesn't always mean lasting. I whispered, it feels like she won. Mrs. Turner shook her head. Strength isn't chasing someone. Strength is walking away with your dignity. I exhaled slowly. I'm trying to believe that. She said, you will. In time. I asked, did you ever feel this way? She smiled sadly. When my herald passed, I felt lost. Different reason, same emptiness. But every day, I chose to keep going. You will too. Her words eased something inside me. I thanked her before leaving. She squeezed my hand and said, remember, dear, wounds close when we let fresh air in. When I got home, Josh was waiting. So, it's official? He asked. I placed the copies down. Yeah. He said, how do you feel? I answered, not healed. Just moving. He smiled. Movement counts. It's the first sign you're coming back. I sat beside him. Do you think she'll care? He shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not. But that's not your job anymore. I nodded. I guess not. He said, Let her deal with her choices. You deal with yours. That night, I slept more than an hour for the first time in weeks. And in the morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Emily. Can we talk? I stared at it, my chest tightening, not from longing but from clarity. She wasn't expecting me to let go. But walking away, that was my revenge. Quiet. Clean. Mine. I put the phone face down and breathed slowly, feeling the weight shift inside me. For the first time since she left, I wasn't afraid of tomorrow. I was ready to build again today. I didn't expect silence to feel this steady, but as weeks passed, I found myself breathing without pain. One morning at the site, Josh said, "You look alive again." I smirked. "Don't get dramatic." He nudged me. "Just proud you're not collapsing." I shrugged. "I'm building. That's all." During lunch, my phone buzzed with a message from Mark, an old mutual friend. "You seen Emily's posts?" he asked. I replied, "No, he sent a voice note. Things aren't perfect over there." I sighed. "I'm not digging." He said, "You don't have to. It's all out in the open." Later that evening, I sat on my steps when Mrs. Turner walked by. "You're working late again?" she said. I nodded. "Extra projects help." She smiled softly. "Work can stitch a heart back together." I chuckled. "Feels that way." The next day on site, I met Daniel, the electrician assigned to the new build. He approached quietly. "You're Evan, right?" I said, "Yeah." "Need something?" He shook his head. "Just saying hi. Heard you're the guy who fixes anything." I snorted. "Depends who you ask." He smiled. "Well, your wiring layout makes my job easier." I replied, "Glad something does." As we worked, he asked, "You good? You look like someone who's been through a storm." I said, "Storm's passing." He nodded. "Good. Storms shouldn't last forever." During break, my phone pinged again, another message from Mark. Ryan blew up at her in the parking lot, jealous over some coworker named Lena. I muttered, "Figures." Daniel glanced over. "Bad news." I said, "Old life stuff." He replied, "Let it stay old." I kept working, but more whispers trickled in. Friends mentioned arguments, money problems, Ryan flirting with Lena openly. None of it surprised me. One night, Josh called. "Dude, did you hear about the fight at their office?" I said, "I'm not keeping score." He answered, "Well, karma is." I exhaled. Let it do its thing. I spent my evenings helping Mrs. Turner fix loose floorboards. She'd sit nearby with tea. "You're steadier," she said. I replied, "Maybe I'm just tired." She smiled. Healing always feels like tiredness at first. While tightening a hinge, I admitted, "I don't feel angry anymore." She said, "That's because you're growing." I paused. "Or because I'm finally seeing things clearly." She nodded. Clarity is its own balm. A few days later, Daniel approached me on site. "Want to grab coffee after shift?" I raised a brow. "Coffee?" He laughed. "Not a date. Just two tired guys avoiding burnout." I smirked. "Yeah, sure." Over coffee, he asked, "Your ex still hovering?" I said, "Why?" He replied, "Because someone kept circling the site earlier. Looked tense." I groaned. "Great." When I returned home, I saw a missed call from Emily. Then another, and another. A voicemail. "Evan, can we talk?" Her voice sounded strained, almost scared. I stared at my screen, feeling nothing sharp, just distance. Josh texted, "She's unraveling." I replied, "Not my problem." The next morning she showed up near the job site, standing across the street like she wasn't sure how to approach. Daniel glanced her way. "That her?" I nodded. "Yep." He said, "You want to talk to her?" I answered, "Nope." He grinned. Healthy choice. She didn't come closer. She just watched me until Ryan pulled up, yelling something I couldn't hear. She flinched, climbed into his car, and they sped off. Daniel let out a low whistle. "Messy," I muttered. "Their world, not mine." That evening, I told Mrs. Turner what happened. She said, "You didn't chase her." I replied, "I won't again." She smiled proudly. "Good. Some doors must stay closed." As I walked home, I realized the cracks in their perfect world weren't mine to fix or feel responsible for. My life was widening again. New friends, steady work, quiet nights. And for the first time, I felt the ground under me belonged to me. I was locking up the tool shed behind the site when I heard someone call my name. "Evan, please." The voice cracked and I froze. When I turned, Emily stood there, mascara smeared, hair messy, eyes swollen. I said, "You shouldn't be here." She stepped closer. I didn't know where else to go. I sighed. "What do you want?" She swallowed hard. "I need to talk. Please, just listen." I leaned against the fence. "All right, talk." Her chest shook as she said, "Ryan left me." I stared. "So, he took my savings. All of it. And he told people at work I was unstable. I got pulled from 2 projects." I rubbed my jaw. "Sounds rough." She flinched. "That's all you have to say?" I shrugged. "What do you expect?" She whispered, "I thought you'd care." I said, "Emily, you walked out of our marriage for him." She stepped closer again. "I made a mistake. A big one. I see that now. Evan, I want to come home." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Home? The place you didn't want?" She shook her head. I was confused. "No," I said. "You were choosing what you wanted. And it wasn't me." She wiped her face. I felt trapped. I thought Ryan understood me. "And now?" I asked. She whispered, "Now I see he used me." I crossed my arms. "Emily, you didn't just leave. You replaced me before you even walked out the door." She cried harder. I know I hurt you, but I thought you'd still be there. I thought you'd fight for me." I shook my head. "I did fight. I fought for years. You just didn't notice." She reached for my sleeve. "Can we try again? Please. I can fix everything." I stepped back. "Don't touch me." She froze. Why are you so cold?" "I'm not cold," I said softly. "I'm just done." She covered her face. "I don't understand. You loved me." "I did," I said. "But loving you meant destroying myself. I won't go back to that." She lowered her hands, staring at me like she didn't recognize who I'd become. "You were never like this." "Maybe that's the problem," I said. "I was always bending, always giving. You didn't want a husband. You wanted someone who made your life easy." She shook her head. "No, Evan, I was scared. Ryan said things that made me doubt everything. He said I settled. He said you weren't going anywhere." I let out a long breath. "And you believed him?" Her voice broke again. "I'm so sorry." I said, "Sorry doesn't rebuild trust." She dropped to sit on the curb, sobbing into her hands. "I have no one." "That was your choice," I replied. She looked up. "You're really leaving me like this? Like you left me?" I asked. "Yes." She reached toward me again. "Evan, please. I swear I'll do better. I'll change. Just don't walk away." I stared at her. This version of her I'd never seen. Broken. Lost. Afraid. It hurt, but not the way it once did. I said, "You told me I made you feel trapped. So I let you go. You found what you wanted. And now you want me to clean up the mess he made." She sobbed, "I want you." "No," I said gently. "You want comfort. You want safety. You want the man you threw away to build you back up." She whispered, "I need you." I shook my head. "You needed me before you chose him." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Cars passed. Wind moved the dust on the ground. She finally asked in a quiet voice, "There's nothing left in you for me?" I answered, "Only memories." "They're not enough." She broke again, body shaking, tears hitting her knees. "I don't know how to fix this." "You can't," I said. "Some choices don't get second chances." She whispered, "Please don't leave." But I turned toward the road. "Goodbye, Emily." As I walked away, she cried out my name, but I didn't turn back. For the first time, her voice didn't anchor me. It freed me. I felt the weight lift off my shoulders, the air entering my lungs like I'd been underwater for months. I didn't hate her. I didn't want revenge anymore. I just wanted my life back. And as I left her behind, I realized I finally had it. The first morning I realized I was finally at peace felt almost strange. I walked in the job site, and Daniel said, "You're smiling. Did you win the lottery?" I laughed. "No, just slept well." Josh walked over and added, "That's a miracle by itself." I shrugged. Guess I'm getting used to the quiet. Later, during lunch, Mrs. Turner called. "Are you eating?" she asked. I smiled. "Yes, ma'am." She replied, "Good. You sound lighter." I said, "I feel lighter." She hummed, "Healing suits you." Months had passed since the night Emily broke down in front of me. Since then, my life had been steady. Simple days, clean routines, work that kept my hands busy and my head clear. Josh noticed it first. "You stand taller," he said one afternoon. "Like you're finally back in your body." I replied, "Feels that way." But the town noticed Emily too. Sometimes I'd hear whispers at the hardware store. "She's not doing well," someone said once. Another time, Daniel pointed down the street. "Is that her?" I saw her standing alone by the bakery, clutching her arms. I looked away. "Yeah," I said. "That's her." He asked, "You gonna talk to her?" I shook my head. There's nothing left to say. One evening, while fixing Mrs. Turner's porch light, she asked gently, "Have you seen your ex around?" I said a few times. She paused. "She looks lost." I tightened the last screw and exhaled. She made her choices. Mrs. Turner placed a hand on my arm. "And you made yours. I'm proud of you." I said quietly, "Thank you." A week later, as I walked from the site to my truck, I heard a soft voice. "Evan, hey." I turned to see Emily standing a few yards away. She looked smaller somehow, like life had been draining her slowly. I said, "You need something?" She shook her head. "No, I just wanted to say I'm sorry again." I replied, "I heard you the first time." She bit her lip. "I know. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to get my life together." I nodded. "Good." She hesitated. "You look different." "Better." I replied, "I am." She tried stepping closer, but I gently lifted a hand. "Don't," I said. She froze. "Right. Sorry." I added, "Take care of yourself, Emily." Her voice cracked. "I miss you." I looked toward the sky instead of at her. "Missing isn't the same as loving." She whispered, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "No, I just don't belong in your world anymore." She cried softly, but didn't chase me as I walked away. That was the last conversation we ever had. Days grew warmer, then cooler. Seasons turned without dragging me under. I worked. I helped neighbors. I spoke with Daniel about taking on bigger projects. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and for the first time in a long time, that was enough. Then one evening, as the sun was setting, I found myself standing outside the apartment I had built for us. The place had been empty for months, untouched since the fallout. I didn't plan to go inside, but my hand lifted the key anyway. The door creaked when I pushed it open, and I stepped into the quiet space. Dust floated in the warm light. Everything felt smaller than I remembered. I whispered, "We almost had a life here." The words sank into the walls. I walked from room to room. The kitchen where she once said she wanted a window garden. The living room where I imagined movie nights. The bedroom where we planned to paint the walls blue. I let every memory surface, but none of them hurt. They felt distant, like watching someone else's story. I leaned against the counter and whispered, "You broke me, you know?" My voice didn't shake, but I healed anyway. I walked to the window and looked down at the street where I first saw her with Ryan. The memory didn't punch me anymore. It just existed. As I stood there, I felt something close inside me, slow and natural, like a door gently shutting on its own. I whispered, "I'm done carrying you." I walked to the entrance, took one last look around, and locked the door. When the latch clicked, the final bit of weight lifted from my chest. Outside, the air felt new. I exhaled deeply, steady and calm. My phone buzzed, Josh asking if I wanted to grab dinner. I texted back, "Yeah, I'm on my way." I stepped off the porch, leaving the apartment behind me like an old skin I no longer needed. In the fading light, I felt something warm settle in my chest. Not pride, not anger, just peace. I survived. I rebuilt myself. And whatever regret Emily carried now belonged to her, not me. For the first time since everything fell apart, my future felt wide open, quiet, steady, and finally mine.